So now that the internet's down, I've been able to work on some writing. So I'm going to share with you, instead of writing emails, writing Dharma. So I thought I'd share with you a little bit what I was working on this morning. And it was about the continuity that happens at Rebirth, because how this happens has always been a topic of big discussion amongst the different Buddhist schools. And so, you know, you have some saying it's the mental consciousness, and some saying, positing this foundation consciousness that carries the karmic seeds, and so forth. And the Madhyamaka school usually thinks of the Vaibhasikas and Sautrantikas, you know, as positing something solid that is the person, because that is what transmigrates. And what's quite interesting is in the Pali tradition, which often the Tibetans think is Vaibhasika or Sautrantika, but it's not. It has some tenets in common with them, but not all of them. So it was saying that, you know, there's just moment after moment of consciousness, you know, and it's not the sense consciousnesses that go on to the next life, because the sense organs cease at the time of death. So those consciousnesses aren't going to be the ones that bridge the gap. But they're saying that from moment to moment, even in our life, we have one moment of mind following another moment of mind in this constantly changing sequence that you can never really pinpoint. And when you look at it, you can't even pinpoint what a moment of mind is, you know, because where's the beginning and where's the end of a moment of mind? If you try and box in, you know, here I caught it, a moment of mind, well, it too has parts. Yeah. So we have just this kind of, when you think about it in a logical way, it's kind of almost mysterious. I mean, our logic won't kind of can't get at it, you know, but this constantly changing thing. And that just continues on, you know, at the time of death and goes into the next rebirth. So that's pretty common with the Madhyamaka school. In Tantra, you would say that mind that goes on is specifically the clear light mind, the subtlest consciousness. Of course, the general Sutrayana view, they don't talk about, you know, a clear light mind like that. They talk, you know, they do talk about subtle and grosser minds, but not like the clear light mind in the same way that you do in Tantra. But also what's interesting in the Pali tradition is they don't talk about the karma being located somewhere. You know, they may use the analogy of seeds. We always hear about there's seeds of karma that are put on the mind stream. But in the Pali tradition, they don't think of that. They think of that as simply like a very loose metaphor, because, you know, the mind doesn't have form. So how can you put something on something that doesn't have form? So they say the karma isn't really located anywhere, you know. Is this energy trace, and that continues on, but you don't have to locate it on a mind stream to get it to continue on, which I find very interesting, because the Madhyamakas, when they talk about this, or at least the Prasangika Madhyamakas, say that it's actually the person that carries the karma. They'll say the mind carries the karma, but also the person does. And when you think about it, the person is nothing more than a label that's been put on different things. Yeah. So again, you get this kind of airy feeling, you know, that the person carries the karma. Well, what person? You know, you can't pinpoint it, and yet there's a person that's carrying the karma that's continuing to the next life. Yeah. So it's something kind of very interesting to think about. It doesn't go well with our mind that likes to have nice things with nice borders and limits and all set in concrete. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Can
Uh-huh.
So in the Prasangika, we deconstruct the person, there's no person.
There's no ultimately existent person.
Right.
There's a conventionally existent person, but when you search for it with ultimate analysis, you can't find it.
And during death, the conventional person kind of disintegrates.
The basis of designation of the person is really changing at the time of death.
So what is this person that carries this?
It's what's labeled on. Yeah, it's what's merely labeled independence on that clear light mind that is passing away moment by moment by moment.
Right, so how could we call that a person?
Yeah. I mean, we come right up to facing, our very deep feelings and assumptions of, there is a real me here.
But there's not. And it seems at death there's even more not.
Yeah, but it's not in our life either. It's not that it disappears at death and it existed in life. No. Uh-huh.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you might be talking about an ultimately, inherently existent conventional self.
Yes.
That's not what you mean.
Yeah.
That's why I can't even find what could carry anything for it.
Yeah, because our mind is always thinking, I've got to latch on to something, Yeah. But what there is just something that exists by being labeled. But you can't draw a line around it and say there's the person that's transmigrating.
So maybe I'm just having trouble too with the label, but also with my solid mind grasping, but with this label person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you see how we label something, and then we forget what we label, and we think that the label becomes some concrete object. Yeah. Okay. In the part I was working on yesterday, I was talking about cause and effect and refuting, that an inherently existent cause produces an inherently existent effect. Yeah. And from one hand you say, oh yes, they're all just conventionally existent. They exist by being merely labeled. But when you look at it, no, there's the seed here and there's the sprout there, and they're different, aren't they? And is it just a nominal difference between the seed and the sprout? Is that difference just nominal? No. This is a seed, this is a sprout, the two are completely separate. Wrong again. If they were completely separate and distinct like that, the seed could not grow, could not transform and become the sprout. Yeah? So, but other times, they say we don't innately grasp cause and effect to be different, because at other times, like even we plant the seed and the sprout hasn't come yet, we'll say the seed's growing. Yeah? Or the carrots are growing. The carrot is the result. We'll say the carrots are growing, even though there's not even any sprout yet. So we don't innately see the two as different. But sometimes when we look at things, it seems like, they're just different, that's it. But if they really existed that way, they couldn't be in a continuum. And if they weren't in a continuum, then anything could produce the carrots, because anything would be inherently other than the carrots.
Like an essence? There's an essence
Yeah.
to this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We think there is some essence, and there's not. There's no essence that goes from the seed into the sprout. If there were, it would be some permanent essence, and permanent things can't change. Okay.